Hello and welcome to part 2 from Golf Game Course. In this part, we will beautify the map to make the game visually appealing, and we will finally dive into coding. We will see how to use Visual Studio Code Prettier plugin with Wonderland Engine to make the code consistent with Wonderland's coding style, so your code will be wonderfully consistent. And for scoring, we will make the golf ball move down into the hole once it collides with it. So let's get started. Things now started to make much more sense and the game started to come much more closer. Right now, let's beautify things. So we will import our map. I will go to models folder. I will create a new folder here and I will name it very creative name, which is environment. Select our models, throw it here, and done. We have our models here. We will create a new empty object and we will use it as a folder to organize our outline more. So we'll call this one map. We'll import our map in it. So we'll choose first golf map. This is the first one. We'll import it here. It compresses the textures for it to works perfectly in WebXR without any lags. This is our first model and we import. The second one here compresses the textures and yes, now we have it. But it looks ugly. Why? Because the lighting. We will remove the first light here. We have two lights. We remove the first light and we will create a sunlight because sun makes things beautiful. So we will change this from point light to sunlight and you see things started to show up. We'll decrease its intensity because it's really bright, more than it should. 0.7 is really good, and we will create our sky. And there is a thing in the material here. When we go to meshes, we'll go here. The materials are imported with black ambient color. We want it with white ambient color for it to show up. So we'll go here, starts to show up. This is our first mesh. And now let's go to the tree mesh above this texture. Yes, black. We want to increase it to white. Let's import a sky image. Remember our project settings to rendering, and here is our sky. We will go to the sky pipeline again, and instead of gradient, now we want textured. We will choose our texture, which is this one, drag it here, it's being compressed, and this one was AI generated from Blockade Labs. Things started to look interesting. Now we will play with the material and light properties on the right panel to make the scene looks better. Like we will change the ambient color of the materials to white, and we can even change the brightness from the diffuse color. And for the skylight, from the light component, we will enable the shadows. We will play with the shadow range so that we can see the shadow from far away. And we don't need high cascade count in our case, so we will decrease it to 2 for more optimization. And now let's rotate our sky to make the shadow looks more artistic. And let's change the color of the light to complement more the sky image that we have here. So we'll make it more of a purple color. See how it affects the rocks. Let's change the ambient occlusion here because it's dark. Things starts to get much better. We'll do the same thing with the flag and make it this white again. And this is our new golf club. Say hello. We'll put it in the player's hand. So we have it here, drag it here, drag it to controller right. We will reset the scaling, reset the translation, maybe the rotation too. Press R to rotate it and move it exactly where the old placeholder gamepad exists. And here we can create a new physics object. But instead of creating a new physics object, all what I will do, I will enable the placeholder physics object so that we have here and the other one that we have here, and we will move it a little bit, change its size. This is much faster. So yeah, we have our new golf club here. We will move these sides a little bit or even delete them. We don't need them anymore. And for this one, maybe we'll need it later on. So we'll move it away from here right now. And we have our player. We will move the player away to this location to face this direction. And we'll have the ball next to the player. And you can play with it as long as you like. Like you can make it a little darker and so on. You can tweak it to the way that you want actually. And for example, let's have this landscape here and duplicate it. Control D. We have our landscape here. And you can change its location to have different landscapes. Control D again. You can customize the game as you like. One other thing is that you see this floor, this collision floor. This collision floor is used for us to be able to teleport to this floor plane. We don't need its mesh, but we need its collision because our teleport supports with the collision. So we're just going to increase the collision size and we'll increase it from the other space. Perfect. And you can duplicate it and have it here, tweak it to like work in this place and so on. But you can do it later on. But for now, this area works perfectly. Now, when we press play, we'll go here and we will see our map. And you can ask why I'm very close to the ground. That's because I'm sitting. Like when I stand up, it will work fine. And in the quest here, we have this nice feature that we can adjust the height here and turn on adjusting the height. So we simulate as we're moving up. Perfect. And where is our ball? Can't find our ball for some reason. Yes, it's because
our ball fall down, because the plane here, we will just gonna get our plane physics and we will raise it a little bit high till it goes like here. We press save and then we go again. Here is our ball and then shoot it. Thing is working fine. And if we want to have like the ball to collide with everything, we can put physics objects to everything here. So now we want our ball to fall this hole. How to do that? That's what we will do right now. It's the coding time. And here we will start the coding phase. So we want our ball to fall into the hole. So how to do that? By coding. First, we will go to our JavaScript folder. This is our component folder. We will create our first component. We will create a JavaScript component. We can create TypeScript component too if you want. For me, I want JavaScript and call this component ball. That's it. And I will choose our ball here and search for ball component and you will find it here. Of course, you can just drag it here. And these are the parameters. We can change it in the code when we need to. And I will show you. Press here, edit source. We will find our code here. We have initialize, we have start, we have update. These are the most important functions in any component that you will ever create. If it's your first time to see a code, don't worry about it. All of that will be really easy, don't worry. So we have initialize and you can like put your mouse in anyone and you will see a description for it. So this initialize happens before the game starts. And when the game starts, all of the functions that we'll create in it will happen. And update, it will be updating every frame. So every frame we will console log hello. For example, Control S, when we go to local device and we press play, right click, you will see every frame console log hello. Update, Control S, and the beautiful thing is when we save our code, when we refresh it, it will be automatically packaged. It's like live update, hello update. It gets called in every frame. And if you noticed, I have this Prettier config that when you write a code and it's not written perfectly, for example, like this one, when I save, Control S, you see, it automatically put a semicolon here. It's like an optional step. You don't need to do it. It's just a step if you want your code to be organized and more user-friendly. In your Visual Studio Code, you will go to extensions and you will go to Prettier. You will write Prettier. You will find this code here. You will install it and then you will go to settings, editor.default formatter, and we already have it. I have chosen Prettier here. Also, formatter, save, we want to enable format on save. And then we will have our Prettier file here. It's for Wonderland. It will make things consistent with Wonderland's coding style, so your code will be wonderfully consistent. Now, for example, we write this code, Control S to save it, and then it saved it to Wonderland style. I will put a link in the description for this Prettier. The first thing that we want to do is when our ball touches the goal location, we want to console log when, as we have won. So let's simply do that at first. There's this collision code. Like, you don't need to memorize it. I will show you what that means. And you can always copy paste it from project to the other. And if you're wondering where to find these code snippets, you will find all of them in our documentation. I will leave the link in the description. So in this code block here, it's all about physics collision. On collision, call onCollisionBegin function. We ignore onCollisionEnd, so when our object uncollides, we ignore it. And if it collides with an object, this type touch, which means that if it touches an object, we will call this function, okay? And this is our rigid body. What does our rigid body mean? It equals this object, the object that we're in, get component, we want the physics component, right here, physics. And then we get this rigid body, which is equals to this, and we can put it here like this, and it will work totally fine. We have this one here to like shortening the code, make it easier for ourselves. Instead of writing all of that, we just write this part. This rigid body on collision, it's a function exists in the physics, and we have example here. So on collision, we will ignore on collision end. When we lose the touch, we don't want anything, so we will return. If there is a touch, then we will call this function on collision begin, and we will pass the other. The other is the object that touched our ball. So on collision function, this one we will create on collision begin, and we will pass the other. Of course, like you can rename this on collision begin to, and this one on collision begin to, and this one will be called when. Talking from the perspective that you have never seen a code before, so here it is. Collision begin. If our ball touches any physics object, this on collision begin will be called. But the thing here is that, like for example, console log the other that we are passing, the other object that we are passing. Hit save, start the game. Yes, we will see collision event type is not defined, and we define it by just copy this one here, and you're just gonna copy paste this code in any project that you want. So don't worry about it. It looks long, yes, I know, but don't worry about it. You will see component, the name of it, floor physics. We collided with floor physics. And if we go to other objects, name, you will see our ball collided with floor physics. Perfect. But the thing here is that how do we know when our ball collided with the hole? We know that from this part. So for example, raise our ball up here, create a new mesh object, call it hole, make it cylinder, make it dark, and we put it here. And we add physics object to it. We copy its scale, we choose box paste, and we made our hole static because we don't want it to be affected by physics. Control S, see, we touched the hole this time, not the floor. If we rotated it a little bit like this so that it slides, that's what I want to show you. You see hole, and then it touched the floor physics. All what we need to do is that we want to ask if the ball touched the hole, it will do this and this and this. But if it touched any other thing, it will not gonna do anything. And that's what we'll do here. If other object name equals hole, like its name equal hole like this, then we will console log goal. You see goal, and when it touched the floor, nothing happened. But when we touched the hole, it console log goal. So now, what we want to do is that we want to move the ball inside of it. So how to do that? By simply lerping it inside of it by using lerp. We will go here, we will reset rotation, and we'll go here, we'll make it small, and we will put it inside our hole here. And we'll copy this and put it here, and we will make our box larger. When our ball touches here, this spot here, it will be thrown down to the hole. How it will go down? So we will create another empty object here and call object hole inside location. When our ball touches this collide, it will lerp down to this, you see, to this hole inside location. And that's what we want. But to do that, we need to reference it from the ball. So how to do that? How to reference this empty location to move the ball to? We will go to the parameters. We'll call this one hole inside location. Property will be object because it's an object. So when you control S, we'll go to the ball and we will see it here. It changed from parameter. We'll go to the parameter again. It changed from the parameter to hole inside location. And we just press on this to pick it, and now we're referencing it. This is all the objects, but we want to reference only this object. For example, at the start of the game, we'll console log this object name. And when we start the game, you will see it, hole inside location. So now we are referencing the hole inside location. And now we want to lerp to its location. So how to get its location? We will call it, this object hole inside location, position words. And we need a variable set the position word of it. So we'll go to initialize, create this end location, and we want it vector3 create, and vector3 is GL matrix. Copy paste this vector3, but this time from not from Wonderland API but from GL matrix. And vector3 is 1, 2, 3, 3 numbers in a group. That's vector3, and it defines the location. This is X, this is Y, this is Z that we have here. You see 1, 2, 3. X, Y, Z. If we console log this end location after we set it, and before we set it, we can do this before and after. Before it's 0, 0, 0, but after this location number, X, Y, Z. So we want to move our ball to the hole inside location. And also, by the way, you can do that. This end location equals this hole inside get position word. But it's better coding to put it in initialize and set it from here. This is a better option, but you have the other option too if you want. Now we have our hole inside location. Now we want to lerp. How to lerp? It's like copy pasting the code again. Codes you will always copy paste, which is the physics collision and the lerping. We will go to update because the lerp need update, and we will put it here, initialize it here and make it 100. So this one, if it's less than 0.5, then it will start, or less than 1, or less than any number that you want. It's the seconds number. It gets increased by the delta time, and then we have our lerp. This is the lerp ratio that we put it in the lerp here. This one is the main function. We're using GL matrix lerp, move from one location to the other. This is current location of the ball. We get it from this object's position word, like you have hit here, but this time we want our ball, we want our current location, and we will identify it up here like we have identified hole inside location 1. So initialize it. So now this current location will move to this end location over this amount of time. This is the main function. The value will be set here in the temp vector, and we need to initialize the temp vector too, so we will initialize it.
So maybe instead of initializing it here, we'll initialize it up there, because temp vector is only used during the update, making it unnecessary afterward, and it can be shared with other instances of this component.
Current location will go to this end location, and over this amount of time, Lerp ratio, and it will change the temp vector. Then we will set this object, set the position words based on the temp vector, and that will happen when we collide with the hole. And how do we start it? We'll go here and reset it to 0. It will increase over time, and when it passes the 0.5, it will stop, and it will not gonna call this lerping function again. If we want to call it again, we reset it to 0, so it starts from all over again, okay?
And I know it sounds complicated right now if you're a beginner, but don't worry about it. You don't need to fully understand it now. Just know that this lerp function moves the object from point A to point B over time. That's it.
Only one thing left here. We want this rigid body. We want its kinematic to be true.
Why? To make the physics simulation follow the object position instead of the other way around.
We will get the player near the hole and the ball too. Now, let's test it. It fall. Why? Because it touched it. So it lerped down into the height to the hole inside location. So what happened here? It lerped. So you must see it again. Push it and boom, it falls down. It lerps down to the inside of the hole location. And if we have it over, for example, 5 seconds, but we want it to be half a second. Okay, so we have our lerp.